Welcome back to Wellness 3.0, the podcast where we sit down with trailblazers, innovators, and leaders who are shaping the future of health and wellness and pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build something meaningful in this space. Today's guest is someone who didn't just ride the wave of the wellness revolution, she helped start one. Annette Scott is the founder of Kodawari, a holistic wellness studio in Tampa, Florida, that has been weaving together yoga, bodywork, acupuncture, sound healing, hyperbaric therapy, sauna, and cold plunge for over a decade. And yes, she was doing sauna and cold plunge before it was cool. In fact, she's credited with literally kicking off contrast therapy as an industry in the Tampa Bay area. But Annette didn't stop there. She has since launched 2 additional businesses, Hotbox Cold Plunge and Revivery, bringing her signature approach to wellness to multiple locations across Tampa. What makes Annette truly unique isn't just what she offers, it's how she thinks about it. She developed a biopsychosocial method that weaves together breathwork, meditation, contrast therapy, and communal connection, all through a trauma-informed polyvagal grounded lens. She believes that in an increasingly AI-driven world, real human connection is becoming the most valuable currency of all. She's building businesses that prove it. And speaking of AI, Annette is using it in some pretty remarkable ways to build out a B2B training platform that could reshape how sauna and cold plunge businesses are built, certified, and programmed across the country. She's a wellness pioneer, a thoughtful entrepreneur, and someone who has spent a lifetime connecting dots that most people didn't even know were related. I cannot wait for you to hear her story. Annette, welcome to Wellness 3.0 Unlocked.
You just did me a solid. That is the best description of me and what I'm doing that I've heard. And what a mouthful. You did a beautiful job. You got it all in there. Like, that's 5 pounds of stuff. You just snuck into a 3-pound sock. I'm impressed.
Well, you've done a lot of amazing, intricate things, and yeah, there were a few words there that I had to practice.
Yeah, I love you got Kodawari right. You got polyvagal right. I mean, tongue twisters extraordinaire. You championed it. It was good, good.
Thank you, because it doesn't always start off with such a bang. So
you did be good.
Thank you. Well, we're all excited to hear a lot about what's going on. And you've got 3 businesses, Kodawari, Hotbox, Cold Plunge, and Revivery, as well as working on some other things. But take us back to the beginning. How did a massage practice lead to building an entire wellness empire in the Tampa area?
I'll probably go even further back, which is to say I feel very fortunate and have a lot of pride around the fact that I was brought up on a dairy farm on the Canadian border, right so close to Canada, the United States. My mom's family's all French Canadian. My father's lineage is Irish and came through Canada and then into the United States. And all of that allows me to point to, I love the body. I love physicality. I was brought up early on to we didn't call it work. It's just what your life looked like. It was very physical. So dairy farming is a very physical endeavor. And this may sound like a healthy brag, and it is. I also happen to have a really bright intellect. I started reading early. That was encouraged. My parents allowed me to have both sort of streams. I was a physical child and I was an intellectual child, and they gave me the space to do both things. And that intellect and physicality has become interwoven in my personality, the way I express in the world. And that's followed me all the way through to essentially a huge critical turning point. I worked for a corporation for about 5 years. And at the end of that tenure, I was given a couple choices. And one of them was I could go do a job that I knew I would fucking hate, or I could take a severance package. And I went and took the severance package, which allowed me to go back to school for massage therapy. Interestingly enough, I already at that stage had a master's degree in modern literature and critical theory. And I had also supported myself through my teens into my 30s through hospitality. I was a bartender, I was a waitress, I did you name it, with the exception of being a chef. I was a sous chef, a baker, all the things, front of the house, back of the house, all this physicality, a love for creating spaces where people could truly feel connection, meaningful experiences, and a love for being alive. And so I went to massage school sort of thinking, oh, even if I come out the other side of this and it doesn't become a career, I have a skill that I can share with my friends and my family and people I love. And it actually became very much my career. And over time, this intellect married with physicality has really served me. And now, interestingly enough, this intellect, part of that is why I turned toward AI, because it's way smarter than I am. And when I work cooperatively with it, it allows me to pay more attention to the thing that I think is going to become what I would call the new currency, which is connection, collective, communal experiences. And so that's a long answer. And so I got to give you a chance to ask another question. Yet massage therapy was the turning point where I returned to the interweaving of intellect and physicality, which now serves me and serves my community beautifully.
Was there a moment early on in this journey when you realized, hey, this could be something bigger?
So interestingly enough, it was 2002 when I did my first contrast sauna and cold plunge therapy. Was through the massage school, Florida School of Massage in Gainesville, Florida. And this lit me up so much and was such a radical shift to my own feeling state that I chased opportunities to get into the heat, to get into the cold, and to figure out why my physiology responded so beautifully. And it isn't that practice, being in the heat, being in the cold, can't be done solo or alone. I also realized that doing it with other was also equally valuable. It felt like similar to having a really extraordinary experience at a table with people over food and drink and shared conversation. And I'll jump us forward from 2002 to 2020 when COVID, the unfolding of how that thing went down and went around and went over and went under and went through our society. One of the critical pieces for me was, how do we still gather? Because if we don't gather, we will wither and we will crack and maybe break. And my answer, after some research, it started very early on. I realized that contagion, essentially, the negative kind, doesn't do well. So COVID as a actual disease does not live under humid conditions in the heat. It can't be transmitted. So I would literally, light bulbs went off and I was like, sauna might be the answer. Hot yoga might be the answer. I already had a yoga studio and I was already doing hot yoga. And so I started to layer in what it might be to create safe spaces physically, biologically, for people to gather, because I recognized inherently, innately in my earthlingness, how important being together with other people was. And the loss of it, just even the thought of not being able to gather, was terrifying to me. And to be honest, I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm someone who does very well outgoing. And when I recharge, I do that mostly alone. And yet, even someone who works well on my own, the thought of not having a gathering space was soul crushing. Mm-hmm. And so I did everything I could to create safe spaces where people could safely gather, and hot and humid. And I could make all kinds of inappropriate jokes, but let's just say hot and humid is kind of good for a multitude of reasons. The key was I got to this space where I thought, this is for everybody. And then when I take a very particular lens to wellness, health, and I don't love this word, fitness. What I realized after having been in the fitness world, the health world, the wellness world, there's a lot of reasons why people don't start a getting healthy journey. And the vast majority of them sound something like this. Well, I need to get a little stronger before I go lift weights because I don't want to look like a wuss in boots. Or I need to get a little more flexible before I go start doing yoga. Or maybe I need to get control of my breath better before I go running with people. And the reality is that'll keep you from doing any of it always. Sauna and cold plunge, if you can sit down and stand up, you can do it. And you don't have to be in any shape. You can be in any and all shapes and still get the benefits of this. And for the American public, of which I am a part, I'm like, we got to lower the threshold to getting so much so that you just have to step over it. And sauna does that. Sauna and cold plunge does that. It is so, the barrier to entry is almost negligible, still requires money, still requires time. And yet it, people still don't love intensity. And yet we're wildly capable of saying, like, I can come and sit in a room for a little bit that's hot. I can sit in a space that's really a little cold. And the benefits of doing those two things alongside other earthlings is extraordinary. So, such a big gift.
So you mentioned two things that really struck me. One was the communal aspect, particularly as we were navigating COVID. And that has really been eye-opening, I think, to a lot of people. You don't really realize something until it's taken away from you a little bit, how incredibly important it is. So your desire to create a true safe space that we could continue to have a communal connection. And then the second was that this much lower barrier to entry, as far as people feel like you have to wait till you're at a certain point before you start something. And that just squashes so many people's dreams to begin with. But you were bringing this sauna and cold plunge to Tampa way before people were even really aware of what contrast therapy was. So what was that like, trying to just educate people and bring awareness to them?
I'll be direct and frank. It was this thing that I'm about to say has served me so many times, and it's going to sound counterintuitive to success. I was ignorant. I didn't think I needed to educate people. I didn't think of that as a thing that I was going to have to overcome. I was like, I love doing this. This makes sense to me. I want to share it with people. I didn't think of all the reasons it might fail. I didn't, do a cost analysis. I didn't do a SWOT analysis. I didn't think about my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, or my threats. I wasn't doing that. Literally, and since then, I've learned all of these fancy words, and I can do data analysis about what's your LTV, your lifetime value, client acquisition cost, click per, all the things that over time, there is benefit in widening one's awareness about what might be a challenge. When I first in business, in all honesty, which is why I can say I feel #blessed, my awareness of what was possibly a problem was really limited. And so I didn't worry about educating people. I literally was passionate enough to sort of say, fuck it, I'm doing it because I like it. And I think it's going to bring value. And I'm just going to get out there and do the damn thing. And let's see if people follow me. And they did. And now, 5-ish years later, I have 3 businesses that are built still to this day on the back or on the front or right alongside that level of passion. And it seems to work. And I've gotten more refined in my understanding of how to educate. And I now know that there is a funnel of awareness, consideration, conversion, and advocacy. And I understand marketing in a way I didn't before because I had to. Passion was an absolute, for me, must be at the start of this thing. And so to education, which will bring us back to AI. If you want to take it that way, passion and AI can come together so beautifully to what I don't know, I can ask about. And I can even ask, what is it that I don't yet know that would benefit me to know as a prompt? And man, will you get an answer.
I think that your naive enthusiasm and passion served you well, and more people should just embrace that, especially when you're starting out something new. But what were some of the specific challenges that you faced, especially when you're scaling and growing this sort of experiential wellness business?
Education is a big piece. So education is most assuredly, I'll finish my first sentence, and then I'll come to consultative sales. Educating people on how and the mechanics of how this will bring value to your life. And I say education because I believe, at least by virtue of my own experience, while I believe myself energetically to be an infinite being, I also have a finite amount of time. And inside the finite amount of time, I've got to stuff in to a 3-pound sock 5 or 6 pounds of things: family, friends, getting outside, getting enough sleep, making sure I'm feeding myself, drinking water. If I were to follow all the here's how to stay healthy, that alone, that to-do list, I mean, shit, I still forget to floss my teeth sometimes. There's things that I don't get a walk in every day. Sometimes I don't hit the 10,000 steps and I'm aware, like, oh my God, I didn't make 10,000 steps and I didn't floss my teeth and I didn't go outside. And, can I allow that to create panic? I could. Do I? Not so much. However, educating people on how sauna and cold plunge isn't a spa therapy that is indulgent, that you do once every 3 months, is really critical. The benefits of it are really seen. They start to accrue after 2 visits a week. 4 to 7 visits a week just goes off the charts. And let's say 4 hours a week, for a lot of people, that's a heavy investment of time. And yet the ROI on this, return on investment, fancy words, is also really high. Like, I'm vibrant. I don't know if you noticed, but it's not just that I'm crazy. I got some good energy rolling. So you might, after we get off today, you might like cut this and be like, I think she's crazy. That's got to come out. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut this. And let's say you're successful in cutting what might look like crazy to you out. You cannot cut out all the energy I can bring to a thing. And a lot of that I owe to sauna and cold plunge. My hair's wet with you right now because before this, I did a sauna and cold plunge so I could be regulated and let me come through without a lot of nervousness. It's of real value to me. So back to education. That was one of the things that still to this day proves to be challenging. Thermal bathing, which is another way to discuss contrast therapy, is to the American public very new. To most of Europe and what we would call the Far East, it is not. It is a long-standing cultural tradition that is literally part of the fabric of their lives. We're only just starting as Americans to figure it out. So I got to tell some Americans about it. And sometimes figuring out how to tell them is tough. So marketing, what do you say? So again, I've learned a little bit about marketing. Primary benefits. Most people want to hear physically, what is this going to do for you? How much better are you going to be? Are you going to be sexier? Are you going to be thinner? Are you going to be more of a viable option for the dating pool? As a result, like, I got to come with some of that bullshit. And that's at least the surface level. And then maybe along the way, I weave in that mentally you'll be more capable, possibly spiritually more consistently kind because you feel better about being alive. You got better sleep, these things. And then also always for me, I grew up with what I would say is a real healthy skepticism of being conned into spending your money on something you don't actually need. And so my healthy skepticism has directed me to find consultative sales. If what I've got is a product and an offering and a service doesn't truly serve you, all I need to know is that that's the truth, and then I leave you alone. And yet, before I discern with you that this thing is not for you, I'm going to bug you. I'm going to say, like, hey, I'm going to email you. I'm going to text you. I'm going to Instagram pop up on you. I'm going to say, bitch, I think there's something here. Because honestly, in our current construct, our social construct, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of disruption. There's a lot of BS. How do I differentiate myself? These are big terms. What is my product going to do for you that an infrared sauna in the back of your house isn't going to do for you? Why is coming to a collective class structure guided session, how is that going to bring you benefit versus you doing it alone for a half an hour? there's a lot of education and equally also an opportunity for this consultative sales. I do need your money. I don't have a problem personally with this idea of having abundance, because the way in my belief structure, abundance comes to me so that I can then give that away to others. I literally pray every day to be the source of abundance in someone else's life, which opens the door for me to have money, to have resources. And so consultative sales is a thing I have had to learn the nuances of, so that I'm not trying to con somebody. Because there's an exchange here. Your time, your money, my service, my time. This is a thing we do. And so learning that that takes up a fair bit of my time.
When you're doing the cold plunge and sauna yourself, do you have like a routine, like so long in the plunge, back into the sauna? Do you flip flop back and forth? Do you like to end on one versus the other? And is there some physiological reason where it's better to end on one versus the other?
Ooh, girl, you just opened up the door.
Bring it on, Annette.
Okay. So there's what's known as thermal cycling. And there's a variety of ways to do this. And yet, here's what I understand, both from the global traditions as well as from the immediacy of the last 20 years of science. We could stretch a bit further back, and yet the further back we go, the more dubious some of the claims are. So we'll stay within the last 20-ish years. We're only still now understanding our own bodies and how our bodies respond with this range of incredible, almost it is miraculous genius to the external environments. How do we maintain our internal environment? So thermal cycling. Susanna Soberg did this book called Winter Swimming, which is the culmination of a lot of research. And of course, she's hugged up against Andrew Huberman. And then there's Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Peter Attia, even though he got in trouble lately for being a bad boy, and a bunch of other folks, right? All these sort of bio folks point to mostly the same stuff. And the stuff is the research that says you want to cycle somewhere at a minimum of, and this range of 8 to 12 minutes is driven by what's the intensity of, are you at 175 degrees or are you at 205? If you're at 205, you do a little bit less. If you're closer to 174, you can do a little bit more time exposure. So there's an inverse scale here. If it's real hot, your time's going to be a little more limited. If it's less intense in terms of heat, you might be able to stay for longer. And of course, all this is still reliant on how heat adapted are you already when you walk into heat. So at Revivery, Hotbox, Cold Plunge, and Kodawari, our first round in the heat is 15 to 18 minutes. And then we cycle out, we rinse. So you get a rinse like a shower. It's not a, scrub and do your hair. It's just a rinse. And then we get into the cold plunge, which can run from 38 degrees to 55 degrees for 2.5 to a maximum of 5 minutes. And there's a lot of conversation about whether you're a fertile female, postmenopausal, whether you're a dude. I'm going to set all of that aside because the science is really mixed and there's a lot of fights, and the fights are fun to watch and I think they're silly. So we're going to leave the silly fights over here. 2.5 minutes to 5 minutes in the 38 to 55 degrees, 3 times inside an hour. Cold is an extreme upregulator. It gives you a lot of energy. And we could talk cortisol and all the chemical cascade and the domino effect of cold, which is all for me to say. If you're needing to downregulate, in other words, go to sleep, within 2 hours, you can get cold within 2 hours of going to sleep. If you have 4 hours, you can get real cold. You got 6 hours, get cold, enjoy it. And also, there is personal preference. So for instance, I love the heat. I manage well the cold. So that's a different thing. I manage the cold well and I love the heat. I don't love being real cold. So for me, my third round of thermal cycling has probably a minute in the cold, a nice cooling shower, and I'm still warm enough that I can go out in the world and I'm not. So and I advise a lot of people on your final round in the heat, 8 to 12 minutes minimum, 15 to 18 maximum, 3 to 5 in the cold, and don't overdo it. Don't be a dummy, basically. And you know what's dumb? Overriding your own intelligence. So if your body is like, I'm miserable, can we get out? The answer is yes, get out. So that's a fun answer. Good luck with that, y'all.
So learning to separate from discomfort from which none of that's really comfortable, when you get cold like that. So separating that discomfort from when your body is truly telling you enough is enough.
So this is discernment, this thing that you're pointing to.
Mhm.
And it's also a spiritual practice of sorts. I'm uncomfortable a lot. How I manage myself when I'm uncomfortable is critical to what's known as my character. Who am I when things are not convenient? Who am I when things are not organized to, God forbid, my preference? This is what I believe becomes meaningful living, this ability to discern. I'm uncomfortable. Does that mean that I'm at risk or that there's danger here? No. And so do I have to behave as though this is like a survival threat? Probably not, which leaves me a lot of room for compassion and loving kindness and a sense of humor. I don't take myself that seriously, and I don't expect other people to either.
I think that comes across beautifully.
Thank you.
So we've talked a little bit about your journey, what brought you to where you are, the cool things that you're currently doing, what that's all about. But let's talk a little bit about current/near future, long-term future. You are building out a B2B training and certification. Tell everyone a little bit about that.
So this is going to include one of my least favorite words, which is pivot. I think pivot is overused, and yet I understand why it ends up being such a piece of our lexicon, our business lexicon in particular. When I first developed with my partner, Trisha Will, who's another extraordinary human, this idea of the Revivery, we thought what we wanted to do was franchise it and build 420. 420. We thought we were going to build like 420 locations around the United States and really crush, brick and mortar. And then over the last 3.5 years, we've identified that education, certification, helping people who have made a similar decision to myself. I'm passionate. Now I have to go find money to do the thing, because at this time, as yet, I'm not like some dragon sitting on a pile of gold. I don't have unlimited amounts of money. And yet I know how to talk about what I want to do to people. And so I've either gone and gotten an SBA, small business administration loan, or found personal loans, friends, family, all the various ways, private equity, venture capital, all the things that could find access points. I know people have put their lives on the line to do the thing they're passionate about. And interestingly enough, my excitement lives more fully and is more expressive in being a helper than it is to being the doer. And so when I say this, it doesn't mean I'm not doing. What I'm doing is figuring out ways to take the journey that I've gone on and pivot my learning into helping other people not make the same mistakes I have. So I shot the moon, and the moon is a really long way away. And I fell short. I'm falling short. We're still in the process at Hotbox and Cold Plunge. We're not even a full year in. Kodawari is 10 years old. So I have a proven track record. We're successful. We're a decade in, 5 years of sauna and cold plunge there. Revivery and Hotbox are still coming into their first year. And the money is a concern. And we're going to get there, because I refuse to just be like, oh. However, this idea of federal disclosure documents, I've looked at them, and I said to my partner, I said to Trisha, I think what we need to do is take a pivot and educate people. Here's the breakdown of what it is to build a business. Here's all the things that we did wrong that kept us from accelerating this scale. Here's what we can still do, and we can help other people, so that, this idea of rocking in bed at night alone, thinking like, I don't know what to do next. I'm not sure what's the right direction. Who do I talk to? Who's got actual answers? Who's just selling me bullshit again? this, I I want that to stop. Not just because I think sleep is so terribly important, I do, but also this is a waste of our one rare precious life, and if I can help somebody, I want to. Now, I'll take their money to do it, and yet I want to do that in a way that's more accessible than not, which may mean, here it comes, watch out, here comes the scary word. I'm more socialist in my approach. Like, I don't need an 80% profit margin if I can get 40. So, some of the pivot has been, I'm going to do it all, to I'm going to teach and help and walk with others while we do it together, which is also in keeping with what I believe we're meant to be doing anyway as earthlings. It was Thich Nhat Hanh that coined the word intra-dependent. I think if America, this United States in which we live, is going to continue to evolve and mature, we will let go of this hyper independence and adopt a more intra-dependent awareness. And I know that's a big meta statement, but this has been the spiritual trajectory of all the major big hitter religions. You start to think beyond yourself and into the collective in which you live. We need to do that. And we need to do it fucking now, says I, roughly.
Well, these collective goals all start with people on their individual mission.
Absolutely.
I wanted just to clarify a little bit, your B2B platform that you're building for training certification, is that just the hot sauna cold plunge space, or is it for people in the health and wellness space in general, or more specific to what you already do?
Well, by virtue of the AI assistance that I'm getting, truly, there'll be a learning platform where you can buy modules 1 through 4 because they're the ones you need. And modules 5 through 7 might be very specific to here's how to do what you need to do with sauna. Here's how to buy the right length of cedar. And somebody that's building a Pilates studio is going to be like, I'm not buying cedar. What the fuck? Don't buy module 5.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I'm going to create the potential for business development that stands alone or stands next to, but the word is adjacent. I was looking for adjacent. So that's adjacent to, but not the same as sauna and cold plunge. And yet the specifics of sauna and cold plunge will be available, and you can buy a bundle. You can buy the whole course. You can buy segments of the course. So it's a little smorgasbordy, which is also a Nordic word. And so, this is the nice little nod to the Nords. Thanks.
I love all the conversations I have with my podcast guests, but I really love when people are talking about some of these ancient modalities. And you brought up how this is so fresh to us here in the United States, but other countries, other cultures have been doing it for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Yeah, thousands of years. So what I love then is the intersection of AI with this, where we have the most current thing, where it's the advancements that have happened since you and I even started this podcast are more than most of us can keep up with, crossing over and working with and helping to enhance these really ancient modalities. And you've mentioned quite a few ways that you are currently using AI to help grow your business and launch this new business. But what would you say that did you find since you started using AI was the most surprising thing about it to you?
Certainly speed. Some of the work that I'm doing when I created, so I need to clarify for you, for us, for our listeners. So I'm actually building 2 tracks concurrently. This track over here is the transmitting or teaching the Revivery method, which is the biopsychosocial model of how to run a sauna session and why you would do certain things and not others. And it is very much through a trauma-informed lens. And it's a neurobiological, here are things that you do from a neurobiological standpoint that are about enhancing the psychology of an individual, what we might call mindset, and equally sociability, how to become a kinder person in a collective, and how to honor where that's not yet happening without shame, which, by the way, I just learned this acronym, still haven't achieved mastering everything, right? So people experience shame because they haven't mastered everything, which even as we say it is like, that's funny. I guess I can let the idea of shame go. So cool. Without shame, none of us have mastered everything. Still, too, not even AI, and may never, because the speed at which that intellect moves is critical. Circling back to how am I using it? Over here, I have one track that is got right now 4 levels to it, progressively building on the personal development of a lead that would transmit this biopsychosocial model. Over here is a fresh set of an endeavor, which is how do I take all the learnings from what I have done business wise and apply them in a helper fashion and create a structure that's educational, that's linked, that's intelligent, sequential, also separable. This, when I developed Rev 1, that's over here, it took me and another person 18 months to really get it right, to refine it, to put it together, to put words around it, to create the structure. I just put together Rev 2, which is the next level. Now, the content comes from me, from my experience. It's still me. And yet, working with AI, inside 6 weeks, I'm more than halfway there. I'll roll Rev 2 out in August of this year, and I'm going to roll the B2B platform out in September. What took me 18 months to get cohesion and clarity around is going to take maybe 2 months. And that's only limited by how much time I need to sleep. And so now this can also be frightening, right? It could become addictive. I want to move at that speed. I want to move at that speed. And yet, to be honest, what makes any structure come alive is the content and the character of the individuals in it. And so AI is never going to teach this course. It's never going to be the person, the earthling, the human. I just taught Rev 1 this past weekend before coming to you today. Finished last night. There were a lot of emotions that come up as we talk about how do we optimize and offer ourselves in service to those around us in this one rare, precious life. There's a lot of intensity. There's grief. There's miscarriages. There's gay kids, there's aging parents, there's disruption and divorce, and these things cannot not be afforded space and time in our earthbound bodies. Now, AI can move through it and process it in seconds. This human heart cannot. And so how AI is extraordinary in helping me be more expansive and the speed at which I can create the infrastructure, and I still have to ornament it with the humanity that comes through individuals, me included. And yet, what a blessing we might have to accelerate our capacity to do that effectively. So I want to find the balance.
When we talked earlier, you gave me this really beautiful analogy. You said handling AI is a tightly closed peony bud and you get a full bloom back. So for a business owner who maybe is just now starting to delve into that, or even just as a person utilizing it in some way, what would you say to a wellness business owner who's hesitant to start using AI?
Honor your hesitation and then have what's always been necessary anyway. Has nothing to do with AI as the thing. It has to do with what do you do when you are afraid, which, by the way, fear is false evidence appearing real. There is absolutely no reason not to avail yourself of a tool. It's still a tool. It is not Terminator. It is not the Matrix. That actively use the tool are kind and endeavor toward loving kindness, the collective, answering the question of what is mine to do, what's my act of service. Put any tool in your hand. And as long as that's your motivation, what you will get, the outcome is bloom and blossom. And guess what? Being a business owner means that you've got to be afraid of failure and fucking do something anyway. I must, we must, you must. If we're going to get declarative here, which clearly I am, if you have hesitation, honor your hesitation and then do something anyway. You don't have to do it just to do it. And yet the idea is, what do you think is going to collapse or fail? Have the vulnerability to be honest with yourself and have the courage to head in the direction toward that which you know you need most. So sometimes, Beth, I think, it'd be easier working for somebody else. And then I think about that And I'm like, oh, no, sir. And sometimes I think, oh, I should go live in the back of a Sprinter van because that sounds a lot easier than what I'm doing right now. And then I realized I'd end up in some other part of the country in a Sprinter van starting another business because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a Sprinter van, whatever you're going to do. I'm going to start another business because I'm designed. It's an imperative. If you're in business already, you want to do something. So stop lollygagging and go after the tools that can give you the help and the resources that you need to get the damn job done. If you need to call somebody for some motivation, you can catch a hold of me.
That's your girl. Well, Annette, I find I get truly the most personal satisfaction and the most professional success is when our company helps people use AI in a way that frees them up. Takes tasks, typically tedious tasks, or maybe even a task that isn't necessarily tedious, but not something that they're wired to do, right? You were talking about how you're wired, what drives you. And so there are things that you could do these things, but you don't really want to do those things because that's not what fires you up. You'd rather put your energy into these other components of your business. And so I find when I can present a solution to a client that allows them either to remove that tedious task or just take something that they just don't want to do off their plate, that makes me the happiest. It also just from a professional success, that's where we see our greatest success. And particularly in people in the health and wellness space, that generally means freeing them up so that they can then spend way more time with human connection, which brings us right back to where we started from in the beginning, and how if we can use AI to really do that and spend more time connecting, which we're all craving and we know that we need, then I feel like that's when I've done a good job.
You're a helper, Beth. You're a helper.
Pat myself on the back a little bit. So that being said, is there still some task in your business currently that you wish if you could wave a magic wand, you would just be able to take it off your plate right now?
I want, and I am using, again, my partner, Trisha at the Revivery is really delving in even more so than myself. And as a result, she's created dashboards around our data analysis. So data analysis, who's visiting, with what frequency, what's the return rate, what's our conversion rate, what's our churn rate. These now in my world, the CRMs, client records management systems often try to offer that as a part of their package. And yet they have to universalize it in order to make it something they can sell. Mm-hmm. AI, and I bet you would be a person to talk to someone like me. How do I take my data and the interest that I have in manipulating my data to get my chosen readout? How do I get there? Because guess what I suck at? Excel spreadsheets. Still can't manipulate fucking formulas. I can't freeze cells. I always end up with this. It basically blows up. Excel, when I touch it, it's bad. Yeah, it's like cannot compute. And so I can't even, but I can say to AI or co-work or whatever it is, and Trisha definitely is, the more intelligent your prompts are, the more clarity you get. The more clarity you get, the better the feedback loop becomes. And again, working with someone like you. So let's say I'm terrified and I don't have Trisha. I at least know that this thing is a tool. And so someone could come to you and say, okay, I heard your podcast and the crazy lady said, call Beth. I am saying call Beth. Call Beth. If you're really uncomfortable, do what in my world is known as co-modulation. Go get somebody that knows a little bit or a lot more than you and ask for help. And yes, there may be a fee associated with it, but guess what? Help that comes at a cost that reduces my anxiety, I'm going to pay it. Health that comes at a cost that reduces to a certain degree that I have to hire 4 of you, I'm doing that. If health comes at a cost, the help comes at a cost, and yet the ROI on that is I actually know how to read my own data and it's personalized for me, because that's what AI can do. I can say, don't put it in an Excel spreadsheet, put it in color-coded columns, which is probably still an Excel spreadsheet, but I don't know that. I'm going to pay you to do that for me. So maybe I don't even have to learn AI. I get somebody who's smarter than me, and you become my fractional AI EEO, whatever, I don't know. Whatever new title is going to be born for people like you
Mhm.
who are like, I can help you with AI. Cool. Thank you. So you're a resource, and the universe has positioned you, just like it has me, for different ends so that we can come together in this Thich Nhat Hanh thing, which is this intradependent. I'm not successful on my own. I never will be. And anybody that wants to tell you that that's an absolute thing, tell that person to fuck off away from you right away, because it's a lie. And it's a dirty lie that equals fatigue and adrenal burnout, and then a lack of health, and then a lack of meaningfulness, and then a lack of joy, and then a lack of wanting to be around anymore. So sincerely, get ye gone, get help, hire people that can help you. Sorry, that's my plug for Beth, and I think it's a damn good one because it's the truth.
Well, that definitely won't get cut, so we're good on that.
Thank you. And I mean every word of it. That's a real thing. So
Yeah,
hopefully
knowing
I answered your question.
when to ask for help is a strength, actually, and not a
Yeah.
weakness by any means. Well, Annette, I can't even tell you how much I've enjoyed seriously every second of this conversation. And I'm really excited, particularly for the local people in your area, if they haven't come to any of your brick and mortar places yet to experience this, and also for them to be keeping an eye out if they're in this space. We're going to keep pumping this out. We'll do another, when you launch these things, let's stay in touch, because I want to pump this out again, because there's a whole bunch of people you're going to be able to help when you launch that.
Thank you.
But for the local people, tell them where they can find you. And also, Annette has been generous enough. She's going to have a discount here that she's going to offer. So they'll be able to take advantage of that and come in and find you and utilize all these amazing tools that they have at their disposal. So let's talk about that.
Beth, thank you for this opportunity as a whole, and equally for this specific opportunity to tell people. The code is wellness20, which will get you 20% off basically any drop in for sauna or cold plunge at any one of the three places. Kodawari is in South Tampa on Henderson. Hotbox Cold Plunge, which is like calling your dog, but it works. Hotbox Cold Plunge is in Seminole Heights, and I point because I'm in Seminole Heights, and it's off of Florida and Emma. And then, of course, Revivery is in West Chase on Tampa Road. All three of these places, that same code will work, wellness20. And at Kodawari, we also have yoga, and you're more than welcome if you're like, I want to try the yoga. I'm not really into this sauna cold plunge business. Well, then come to Kodawari and get your yoga on. So wellness20 at Kodawari, at Revivery, or at Hotbox Cold Plunge. And please use the code, right? Like, give yourself a chance. Take my 20%. And then come and visit me, and then I'll be able to track you with my AI data.
Well, I'll put all those links in our show notes so people will very easily be able just to directly click, set that up, come in and see you, do all the things.
Okay.
And we'll be continuing to follow you on your journey as you continue to evolve. So excited to see what's coming up in the future for you, and very optimistic that it's going to really be changing people one person at a time.
Beth, honestly, just to reflect back to you, this wouldn't have been fun if you weren't fun. So thank you for the gift of your personality.
Thank you. It's truly been a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.